put the lights on, but yeah. Is that good for you?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Good,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
No problem. Happy. Glad I got on.
Yeah, we are too. So we've been eagerly awaiting talking to you tonight. So I wanted to first introduce myself. I'm Angela from Onkaparinga Libraries. With me, I've got Jacinta and we've got Mary. Yay! So thank you for everyone for waiting as well. That was awesome. Just a bit of housekeeping for us. We have got the library book. You can't see it, keeps disappearing with the background there. So we have got Mary's book that you can put on hold for Onkaparinga Libraries. We also use a bookseller at Dimmicks at Glenelg in South Australia, so you can order the book through that store. Obviously, loads of stores will have this book, but that's the company we work with. And I'd also like to thank Penguin Random House for giving us this opportunity to talk to Mary tonight. So thank you for joining us. You're in Sydney?
Brisbane.
Brisbane, okay, further away. Excellent. So it looks light in your neck of the woods still. So
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
So I read your books. I like to read all the books of the authors that we're talking to.
Yeah.
And I was quite gobsmacked of being raised in Queensland, travelling to London at such a young age,
yeah,
and going to America as well. You were very determined and resilient, and yeah, it was just mind blowing that you did so much, and now you've come back to Australia, so you've done full circle. You're one of 7 siblings.
8.
You're the 8th, so you've got 7 siblings.
Yeah, I'm the 3rd.
You're
the eldest girl.
Excellent. And you came to ballet later in life as well.
Yeah, well, 8. You know, I didn't start at 3.
No, yeah. So I thought that was very interesting too, that people seem to be good at it start really early.
Yeah, my teacher wasn't sort of a baby ballet teacher. She was a disciplinarian, and she taught us proper ballet.
Yeah. That's good. So some people, when I've looked online at reviews of your book and what people are saying, some people are saying it's a bit of a sequel to your husband's book. Do you agree with that analogy?
I suppose, you know, people ask the question, what did happen to Mary or Lee's family, or what was Mary, you know, what happened to her? So I suppose people have asked that question, and Penguin always wanted me to write my story, but I never wanted to do it because I was too busy with the children, and particularly Sophie. And I'm a very private person, and my children were quite young, and unless Sophie wanted her part of the story told, I wouldn't have done it. And so it was Sophie that pushed me to write it, and I would do anything for Sophie. So that's how it happened. And she told me she would help me, and she said, Mum, you can always pull out at the last minute. And it took me 2.5 years. And she did help me. She did all the contracts. I wrote freehand. In the end, I had 460,000 words. And I had, my only other condition was it was the same editor that Lee had. And so she's retired now. So that Penguin hired her back just for my book. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was there a defining moment? I know, and your book, it's very evident that you would do anything for your kids and your family. It's a big, strong focus. Was there a defining moment or something that said, yeah, I'm going to do it? Like after so long?
No, really only Sophie. And she was very persuasive. She said, Mum, this will affect a lot of people. And you didn't have a story out there when you had me. You always told me there was nothing there. There was no internet. There was no research. Everything was gut instinct. And, you know, I made choices myself without any knowledge. And I believe in that. I don't necessarily, if you really listen to your instincts, even if your decisions aren't necessarily right, I made choices and I lived by them. And I think that's held me in good stead, because it's what I could live with, not what anyone else could live with, just the decision that I could. So then in myself, I felt I made the right decision. So I sort of just kept going along with Sophie, because actually Sophie she had to be re-implanted 2 years ago as well. So this was during the book, and it was quite traumatic for a 30-year-old to have to stop her life and get new hearing. And so she was re-implanted and it was new hearing. So and the only thing she could kind of manage to do was help me edit the book. So because she couldn't work, she was just trying to adjust her new hearing. So I think it was kind of extraordinary and like meant to be. And when the book was published, she was finally hearing well and coping with her new hearing and life and job and all of it. So, it was a real passage for both of us on reflection. Yeah.
Is there, when you think about technology and the advances we've made with medicine and babies,
yeah,
like back then there wasn't, well, newborn screening was in its infancy really.
Well, I was in America, and they didn't do newborn screening. Perhaps they do now, but also, you go and see a pediatrician. I saw the same pediatrician. He was a very good doctor, came to the hospital and obviously tested everything. And we even checked with him when she was 12 months old, and he just missed it. Because deaf children are very alert in the first sort of 6-7 months, because they're very visual. So they actually, fine motor skills are ahead of normal hearing children. And Sophie was very calm as well. So noises didn't bother her. She wasn't screaming or, we just thought we had a good baby.
Yeah.
And it's just until then, later on that because deaf babies babble as well. So you think, oh, it's just coming, but then it sort of stops. So that's why years ago too, they only discovered children 18 months, 2 years really. So it's great that they have screening now in the hospital. It's fantastic. So it just doesn't get missed.
Yeah. So if you look back on your experience with the whole diagnosis and how it came about, is there any advice that you could give to new parents?
Well, I wouldn't want that diagnosis to happen to anyone, because that was just terrible. We went in with one little baby and didn't even know this person. He just walked in, said she's profoundly deaf, and we were like, what do we do? And he said, I don't know, and left the room. Yeah, so it was, I think he was just a technician, because what you do is you have an ABR, and so they put them out, and then they basically just give you a diagnosis, and then you go back to the doctor. So but that doesn't happen anymore. You would get care and information and sheets on all kinds of places that you can make, and choices that you would make, whether you went down the signing route or the oral route. And I think they're implanting children as young as 9 months now. So, but they weren't doing that then. You had to be at least 2.
Okay.
So, and they weren't doing bilateral. It was only single. So Sophie had her second one when she was 14, which I also pushed for, because they didn't want to give it to her, because they wanted it. They wanted the research to be under children under the age of 10, and Sophie was 14. And so I just fought them on it and said, oh, I don't care. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to put it in the newspaper that you wouldn't let me have it. So then they put her in the research. So when it came to it, I could take people on, And again, it was just, I didn't know that it would work. I just knew that it was my choice, and she was a baby, so she couldn't choose. And that she could always sign, later on if she wanted to, or at any point. But speaking and listening, you have to give, get that done early. And we were already late. So she was implanted when she was 4. So it was very late. But she eventually did catch up when she was about 15, I suppose, really.
So is that the main reason why you didn't embrace the sign language at the beginning? Because you really wanted her to be able to talk?
It was difficult. There wasn't a lot, everyone goes, oh, signing, there's marvelous schools and all that sort of thing. There isn't. There absolutely isn't. And maybe there's some, like I know some people in Queensland actually flew with Sophie's generation, a friend of Sophie's. They moved from Bundaberg to Tasmania because there was a marvelous signing school there. So it's not easy for them either. And I was in America, and there was cued speech, there was sign speech, there was oral speech, and there was the auditory verbal approach. And I just went to Houston School for Deaf Children and got hearing aids and learnt the possibility of her speaking, and definitely that was the choice I made. So she needed to be surrounded by sound all day. And if they're very different, because one teacher's listening and the other teacher's listening through the eyes, and they're very different. And I believed that I needed, first of all, my husband's Chinese and his family's Chinese. So she was not going to be able to, because there are 300 different sign languages in the world as well, just like languages. So it wasn't going to be automatically going to be able for her to communicate with my family, Auslan or American Sign or Chinese. So I wanted her to have a universal language, and I thought that was the one. But now she's a fluent signer, and we've learned to sign as well. So, I mean, very minimally, but and she just flips between whichever one she needs. And I think that's marvelous. She also learns Chinese, and at the moment she's reading Spanish. So if you conquer one language, you can conquer many, I think. And she loves that.
I did love in the book that near the end you mentioned that she was speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
There was that heartfelt moment where you and your husband realised that he would have to stop speaking Chinese at home, and I thought how awful for him.
Yeah, and his parents as well.
Parents were there too, and they went home obviously, but just that whole
just a complete heartbreaking, because that was his. Sophie was going to be the barrier, for all the families. Even I learned a little bit of Chinese, but that was not meant to be. But funnily enough, my son learned Chinese. So he followed all the way through school, and he is a master of secondary schooling, and his major is Chinese and ESL. So, somehow, and we didn't force him to do that. He just, he obviously felt that loss as well, even though he was little. So it's amazing what passes through families without, saying anything really. And then my little one wouldn't do Chinese, and she did French, and now she's doing it at university. So go figure.
Back to the book. What was the biggest challenge you faced writing the book?
I don't like writing. I was the worst at school with an essay or something like that, because I'm just not particularly patient. I love reading and I love talking, but I do not like sitting by myself and writing. And for me, it's just total torture. And they all know that about me. and I'm very slow on the computer as well. So I never would have written it on the computer. And so it was Sophie, and because she was staying with us before she'd left Melbourne on her way to China, and the visa was late coming, and Lee kept saying to her, oh, it's China. And so she would come and wake me in the morning and go, Mum, let's coffee. And then she'd hand me a foolscap size paper and just say, write. And then I'd just like beg her and go, can we have coffee too? And then I would leave for work and she would type all that up. And then I'd come home and I'd go, oh, that's not so bad. So it was a real team effort. And of course, I had Lee with me to remember things as well. And so that was really special. And one of the greatest moments of my life was we were doing the final edit, and Lee was opposite me and Sophie was sitting there and I was here, and we were going through the last, 5 or 6 chapters, and she's there with me. We're all editing every line, and I just thought, who would have ever thought that she would be helping edit, my book. Amazing grammar, everything.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it was in incredible effort. So I sort of think, it's meant to be, and it's great that she walks both worlds, and it's great that it's talked about, because there's a lot lacking in deafness and what people can do, and what a beautiful language sign is, but the possibility of doing both. And we have a deaf friend, and they both sign. They can't really hear. They do a little bit of speech, but their little boy's deaf, and they're having him implanted at 9 months. So there's still difficult choices for people to make. So but perhaps if I had another deaf child, we might have done sign, because it would have been more community as well. But my other 2 children were hearing, and so I wanted her to have that language, and also I sort of wanted her to have that passage through dance as well, because it's such a big part of our life. So not only does she come to the ballet, but she takes all her deaf friends as well, and they love it because they read the expressions, and they never thought they would love it until she took them, and they absolutely love it, because their eye for detail and movement and costume and color is quite different. I think it's so advanced compared to ours, and they absolutely love it. So that's amazing. I wouldn't have thought.
No,
so they all buy ballet tickets now.
That's great. On your travels,
yeah,
obviously you've lived in quite a few different countries. Is there any highlights from them countries that you'd like to talk about, or anything you miss?
Oh, I loved London. I mean, I loved it. It gave me an amazing career, and I performed in the centre of London every summer at the Coliseum, which is in St Martin's Lane. And I saw some of the greatest performances in theatre. I saw Judi Dench, just the most amazing, because in that time, theatre tickets could be £7. So Covent Garden, I saw Dame Joan Sutherland do Lucia de Lammermoor. I performed on Covent Garden stage. So the stages around the world, the theatres, were just amazing. The Châtelet in Paris, the Met in New York. So learning about the world through theatre was such a gift, and dancing to all those amazing orchestras. So it was an incredible life, and having written the book, I look back and I go, oh my God, how did I do all that? It was very busy.
Yeah.
And I loved America as well, because England, we were a touring company, so we were based in London, but we toured all over the world and all over England, which was marvelous. I wouldn't have got that in any job. We went all the way to Bradford, Liverpool, all the way down to Wales, to Cardiff, Plymouth. So amazing. I saw the whole of England. And then in America, we toured America. We went all the way to Pennsylvania, El Paso, Florida, Washington, New York. So I mean, we worked hard, but we met amazing theatre people, and saw Cleo Lane in New York, and just amazing. And the ballet is it's a family. So when one person in the ballet, or you've lived and worked in it that long, everybody knows me from England to America in the ballet world. So it's amazing, really.
It's like having a family.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very lucky to get a job at 19 and have this beautiful family. And then Rudolph took us all over the world, and we're all in beautiful hotels. And I mean, not around England, we weren't paid, but when Rudolph took us places, we got nice things.
In your book, you break it down into your almost decades of where you were, bits of your life. Is there any bit of your life you would change? Do you have any regrets?
No, No, and it's still going.
Yes.
We've been in Queensland Ballet now. Lee's been director for 9 years. So I'm just off to a show tonight. This has been our opening 2021, which we cancelled last year to do. So we're on to show number 12. We have 16 live performances and 100% capacity. So it's just amazing, a miracle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to hand over to Jacinta now. So
Right.
if anyone in the audience has any questions to ask of Mary, if you can put them in the Q&A, and Jacinta will ask them for you.
Thanks, Angela. All right, so just the first question to start us off with, what has been the biggest challenge in your journey so far?
Sorry, the biggest challenge
in your journey so far? Yeah.
Oh, definitely teaching my daughter to speak. No question.
Yeah.
It was a mountain. It was a mountain, and took but the rewards were so huge, and the highlights, the small highlights that were on the way, her achievements, they're like Olympian. Well, that's what my husband and I thought, and we shared it. So we never took anything for granted. Not a single word or a sentence or an academic result or a ballet exam or her learning to play the piano or her getting up to speak in front of thousands of people, or we didn't take anything for granted, never. And I guess that's something that taught us, to not take everything for granted.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. It was lovely reading your book and the sentiments that went along with that, and just your journey together. It was just wonderful. So what about the best moment in your journey?
Best moment, I think probably meeting Lee, I would say, because I had no intention of getting married, and I think I thought about children, but not really. Mostly I only thought about ballet. And so when I went to Houston and he was my partner, I was very taken aback. And I sort of stayed in Houston because somehow I thought, I started to believe, and I didn't iterate that then, but I now do believe that things are destined. And now I look at that and I think that was my destiny, because why would a little girl from Rockhampton go all around the world and end up dancing with a Chinese partner that escaped China and then get married and have 3 beautiful children? It's just not the story. So, and as I'm older now and I look back and I think, how did we end up in Queensland? And I think, well, destiny, Well,
where do you see your journey going next? What do you think the future holds for you both? Or for your family, really?
The book seems to be taking on a life of its own. So we've just, Sophie and I have just finished, not quite finished, but airing on Australian Story about the book, which airs on April the 12th. So, and I'm doing a charity next week in Toowoomba on the book. And basically, my life consists of ballet every day and teaching and helping the young dancers, which I love. That's just like fun.
Oh, it's brilliant when you can enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah. Lucky.
Do you think?
Lucky.
Yep. Oh, that's wonderful. Now, you said you didn't enjoy writing, don't enjoy writing at all, but I think you would write another book.
No.
No, not going through that again.
It's so much work. Oh my God. It was 2.5 years, and it was very constant, and it's always sitting over you, and you think, will I ever get there? So no, and I don't think about coming home at night, sitting down and writing, or getting up in the morning and writing, no. Or going to sleep and going, what that, I need to write that. I need to write that. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly an achievement to have one book written and published. So well done.
It is. Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Now, going back to your childhood, just got a question here. Throughout your book, we could feel the love you had with your family and with the area that you grew up in. So, are you still close to your siblings?
Very much so. Yes. My sister lived next door to my mother, so often. So I think that my mother preordained me coming to Queensland, and unfortunately, about 4 years after we got here, she had a stroke and she was in a home. But my sister lived next door, so I'd see two birds with one stone. I'll pop in on my way home. It's just 5 minutes from me. And my other brother, Patrick, lives down the road, and two of my brothers have just moved to Coolangatta, which is our favourite place in the world. And our parents used to take us there 40 years ago. So they all come to the ballet. My oldest brother's coming tomorrow night, and my sister went on the weekend. They love the ballet so they all love it. So they were given, a journey through ballet, just through ballet school. So they love it. Well, all the boys do too. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So what have been some of your sources of inspiration throughout your life?
Well, Lee, definitely. He's a hard one to keep up with. But, my ballet teacher, Maisie, in the beginning, and she's the one that said to my parents, you need to send her to London. And thank God, because I don't know what they would have done with me if I hadn't. And then, all my directors there giving me opportunities, and Rudolph, and I was coached by Margot Fontaine, all these amazing people, and choreographed on and did these amazing ballets. So I was touched really by so many people. So, and I think I sort of sought them out as well. So I didn't hide in the corner. I just wanted to know. I was insatiable, really.
So speaking of your dance career, what was your fondest memory of during that time of your life?
Oh gosh, a lot of it was hard work, and I did this amazing ballet called On Yagan, and I was very young at the time, 25, and it was a big dramatic role, and every ballerina in the world wants to do it. I didn't know anything about it, but I got an opportunity, and I did that when I was very young, and then I did Juliet, and I did Giselle, and Swan Lake. So conquering Sleeping Beauty, conquering all the major ballets was a huge achievement for me, and doing Juliet. And then we've recently done Romeo and Juliet here, so I'm able to coach it, all those major works, which I've done. So that's wonderful, like full circle. Yeah. So I can pass that on to the younger dancers.
Did you have a favourite? That's fantastic.
Did
you have a favourite role? Sorry.
Yeah, I think Giselle, probably Giselle and Juliet. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's always your favourite Giselle.
Yes, very
because
true.
you're working on it. But Giselle, I really, really love. So challenging, but gorgeous. Yeah.
Was that where yourself and Lee, was that when you were partners then?
We did Giselle together, yes.
Giselle?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Quite a few times.
I vaguely remember, I think in one of the photos.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, what was your longest running role?
Longest running role? Oh, they sort of circle back, because you do Swan Lake one season, and then it goes away for a couple of seasons, and then it comes back, and then you sort of develop as a dancer, so you're really able to gauge where you are. So, and Nutcracker, you do that every year, and so you sort of get to start off in the quarter ballet. I started off knocking over everybody else in the quarter ballet, and then eventually got to do Sugar Plum. And it comes back every year. So it's a great judgment of where you are, really, technically and artistically. Yeah.
And just to wrap it all up, and as a final question here, what have been your proudest moments, both as a dancer, but then also as a mother and a wife?
As a dancer, gosh, so many as a dancer. Ooh. Proudest moment. Oh, I don't, there's too many. I think surviving career is because it's day in and day out. So I'm very proud of surviving that long career and having done all the major ballets, because they're 3 hours long. They're like huge symphonies. So you can't just like work on them in one day. They're weeks and weeks and weeks of work. So I'm very proud of that. My proudest moment, gosh, so many. Lee's movie, the book, you know, my beautiful children, all of them are just amazing moments. And yeah, I have too many. I've been a lucky person.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful to read about your life. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself, but then also to hear about it from you too. If anyone hasn't read Mary's Last Dance, you can place a hold on it at your local library or go out and purchase a copy through Dymocks at Glenelg, as Angela mentioned earlier. So be sure to read Mary's Last Dance and support that book. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mary, and answering all our questions for us. It was lovely to speak with you. And thank you, Angela, for co-hosting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm so glad I got on Zoom.
I'm glad to go on too.
So it was just the email. So that was good to remember in the future. Great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and enjoy your show. Where are you going to the show tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to QPAC.
Yeah, so enjoy your show tonight.
60th gala program. I will. Thank you. Lovely to chat.
Enjoy.
Okay,
thank you.
Bye.
And thank you to the audience as well for staying with us today.
Gorgeous.
This evening.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Jacinta. Lovely. Bye.